Hello everybody and welcome to Yo Like 'Em, the podcast where we give out recommendations to music and movies, especially ones that you might not have heard before or appreciate that much, and we also talk about an array of other things on the show as well. This week we are doing another mini episode, as Josh and I were not able to meet and record a full-length episode for this week, so we're going to do this mini episode, and hopefully by the next week's episode, when that goes up, it'll be another full-length episode with Josh and I both involved. So I'm going to give out a couple of really quick recommendations, because I felt like the one I recorded before this went on a little too long. So I'm just going to give out the band, a little information about the band, a couple of albums and tracks, and then that's it. It's probably going to be under 10 minutes. So let's get right down to it with our first of the two bands, Camel. Camel were formed in 1971 in Surrey, England by Andrew Latimer, who played flute, guitar, and also sang occasionally. The band was well known for their more lighter prog rock, not as experimental and jazz influenced, but still having some elements of jazz in their playing, but a lot of classical influences with the flute and some woodwind and string accompaniments in some of their songs. The playing of Andrew Latimer and Pete Bardens were the highlights of the first couple albums, but when Bardens left, Latimer started, chopping and changing the lineup of the band, and eventually he's the only original member left in the band now. A couple of albums that you should really check out would be the second, third, and fourth albums that they released, which are, respectively, Mirage, The Snow Goose, and Moon Madness. A couple of recommendations from the albums would be the songs Rioter and Rioter Goes to Town from the album Snow Goose, Nimrodel and Lady Fantasy from the album Mirage, and the songs Lunar Sea, Airborne, and Song Within a Song from the album Moon Madness. Definitely check this band out if you like a little lighter side of your progressive rock. You don't like the more heavier or more experimental parts of prog, and you like to just kind of turn something on that's very atmospheric and pretty sounding, because really Camel is a very pretty sounding band. The next band I'm going to talk about today is the band known as Gong. Gong were a very weird band. They were much more experimental than Camel were, and not as much so as, say, King Crimson, but they were definitely a little more adventurous with their musical endeavors. They were also very comedic at times, with a lot of silliness and goofiness thrown into their songs. And they actually have 3 albums, which are the 3 I want to recommend to you guys, called Flying Teapot, Angel's Egg, and You, which are all part of their quote-unquote mythology, where they talk about the planet Gong and the many people and creatures that inhabit it. The song I Am Your Pussy / Witch's Song off of the album Flying Teapot is an interesting one to listen to. You get occasional vocalist Gilly Smythe doing a very oddly seductive song about either being a witch, an object of sexual pleasure, or a literal pussycat. It kind of flips on in between all of those. Then up next, the album Angel's Egg. The songs I would like to recommend to you are the songs I Never Glid Before, which is one of my favorite songs by the band, and really just in general, such a fun song to listen to. And the song Eat the Phone Book, Coda. Yeah, they're a goofy band. And the last one, my favorite album by them, is the album You, which the songs I would like to recommend to you after that one would be the song Master Builder, a very serious track, which is odd for Gong, who were always on the lighter side, doing a lot of jokey stuff and kind of silliness that they would act out on the albums, especially with frontman David Allen's kind of experiment, like almost a theatrical style of singing, where he would mostly just kind of talk to you and do silly voices for different characters and do different styles from like, oh, you gotta know how to talk like it, and he's kind of singing like this and almost kind of chanting that he would do in some songs. Very interesting guy. Passed away a couple years ago, and very smart as far as composition goes, and very interesting as far as his style of playing and music goes. So the song Master Builder, again, a very serious one, with a lot of excellent musicianship by drummer Pierre Morlaine, guitarist Stephen Hillage, bassist Mike Howlett, and the woodwind and saxophone player, who unfortunately his name I don't know how to pronounce, but I'm taking a stab and I'm going to say it's Didier Malherbe. If any people from France or anyone that speaks France who know how his name would be pronounced, let me know, and I'd be happy to make a retroactive pronunciation guide for that. So Master Builder, excellent track. A Sprinkling of Clouds, a little more experimental and more electronic, like early electronic style of playing. With some interesting keyboard work, some cool bass work by Mike Howlett, and excellent drum work by Pierre Morlaine, as per usual. Pierre Morlaine being one of the most underrated drummers of all time. And in fact, every member of the band really was very underrated, mostly just because the style of music they played and their sort of image of being almost kind of stoners. I mean, they have characters on Flying Teapot and You called the Podhead Pixies, so but I think that kind of image damaged their respectability as musicians, unfortunately. But honestly, if you listen to the work by Steve Hillage, who I want to talk about on another episode, the entire band really were all extremely talented. Next couple of tracks are 2 tracks over 10 minutes long, so if you're not a big fan of the longer tracks, then just try giving these a listen. But if you can't, that's totally understandable. But the tracks Isle of Everywhere, a mostly instrumental track with some very operatic almost vocals by Gilly Smythe. It's Smyth, so it could be either, and some good guitar work by Steve Hillage, as almost always he does. And the final track, You Never Blow Your Trip Forever, the epic conclusion to the Gong mythology, where David Allen shows off his silly voices to the max, as well as some of the other members putting in some interesting vocal work. Some very solid musicianship by everyone in the band. The drums on the song, not as hard as the drums on Master Builder, which, my God, I'll never understand what he does on that to get that sound, and his speed and his accuracy on that. It's just fucking all over the place. And You Never Blow Your Trip Forever has a couple parts that always trip me up, but it's a very fun song to play on drums, actually. But yes, You, definitely my favorite Gong album, and one that I think kind of showcases their talents and their signature sounds very well, actually. But those are my recommendations for this week, would be Camel and Gong. So thank you everybody for listening to this very short minisode. If you guys want to follow us on Facebook and Twitter, you can find us on Facebook under Conor and Josh's You'll Like 'Em podcast. You can find us on Twitter at You'll Like 'Em pod, all one word, no capitalization or punctuation. I am at Conor the Harris on Twitter, and Josh is at JB Yaskovich. And you can also find him on Instagram under the, I think, JBY Films. Let me just double check real quick. Yes, on Twitter, he is actually JBY Films, and on Instagram, they're the same name. You can also find the show on SoundCloud and on iTunes, and please follow us on both. Give us a like and a rating. It really helps us get our name out there if you guys do that. And please tell your friends about the show if you enjoy the show. We really do try our best to try and make this a fun and informative show for everybody, with throwing our own silly little flair in there. And I think that's everything for today. I will post a link to our Patreon in the descriptions. Also the Patreon for our friends by default, and Nice Choice Boys, both shows that Josh and our friends are involved in. And I think that's it for everything. So I hope you guys enjoy your recommendations, and next time we'll be back with some more stuff and more goofiness and hopefully informative stuff as well. So thank you everybody for listening. Bye-bye.